Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome to the third lecture of week 4, Modernization and Creative Communication. So, in the previous lecture, we were delving deep into this Gamble and Gamble theory of communication, or Gamble and Gamble model of communication, and why we use that in order to understand not only the communication channel, the interactive communication pattern, but also to find out how contextually we can connect with the changes, the new changes of communicative patterns. So, here in this lecture, we will be concentrating on the topic socio-cultural impact on communication practices. The socio-cultural impact on communication practices is all about how a society's values, norms, beliefs shape the way people interact. Think about it. Language choices, body language, even how direct or indirect someone is, all depend on, the cultural influences. For example, in some cultures, being straightforward is seen as honest, but somewhere it is regarded as very rude, right? So, these contextual differences, this cultural differences needs to be taken care of. So, now we discuss how culture acts as a framework for communication. It is likely every culture has its own set of rules for how people express themselves and understand each other, right? These rules influence not just with the words they use, but also with the non-verbal cues they put in when they start communicating with each other. Apart from that, you have few facial expressions. Say for example, if we take the signal like this, thumbs up, okay. In many culture, this is for, resembles something called okay. But in other culture, let's say for Japan, it means number 5. Okay, so likewise there are so many contextually different cultural symbols. Okay, now this idea is to recognize that these differences are not random. They are deeply rooted in cultural values and norms. By understanding this, we can navigate cross-cultural interactions more effectively and being mindful of the lenses through which others view communication. This awareness also helps us adapt our style, avoid misunderstandings, and connecting with a better world, more larger audience, and connecting, as I have already mentioned, connecting with to the global context, right? So, what do you think about this perspective? Now, here language plays a very powerful role in shaping and reflecting our cultural identity. It acts as a medium through which people express their heritage, values, and social connections. So, let us now break down this into the various key points. First, language reflects cultural identity. What do you understand by this? See, language is not just a tool for communication, right? It's a maker of who we are. the words, the phrases, the expression we use reflect the culture we belong to, right? Say for example, in India, regional dialects like Bengali, Tamil or Marathi convey a deep sense of belonging to specific communities. Globally, indigenous languages, if we consider Maori or Navajo, carry the cultural tradition and histories of those people, often endangered but crucial to identity preservation. Now, let's talk about cultural norms and contexts. See, culture is divided into two ways. One is high context and low context, where we also call it highbrow culture and the lowbrow. Highbrow is all the elites are always fitted into the highbrow culture, whereas the lowbrow are the middle class or the lower ones. Now, language is shaped by cultural norms, by cultural differences, which indicate or which dictate how much context is needed to understand each other. High context cultures, what happens there in the communication? Communication relies on implicit understanding, shared background and nonverbal cues. Say for example, in Japan, if you see, much of the meaning is conveyed through gestures and tones and what's left unsaid. And in low cultural context, communication is more implicit with a focus on clarity and directness. Say for example, in the US, messages are straightforward, leaving very little room for interpretation. Now, another thing that we have to take into consideration when I'm talking about this kind of directness of communication or straightforwardness of communication, not only in US, there is something called power dynamics and hierarchies. Language also reflects societal power structures and hierarchies. In many cultures, how people address each other varieties or even how people address each other in various ways, it depends largely on factors like age, status and relationship. So these are the three major factors: age, your status and your relationship. Say for example, in many Asian countries, if you see, addressing elders or authority figures requires formal language and respectful tone, reinforcing cultural values and norms that reflects respect and hierarchy. So why we need to understand these factors? Because understanding the socio-cultural factors or socio-cultural dimensions of language would help us to see it as more than just words. It's a living representation of any specific identity, values, social structures. Appreciating these nuances enriches our ability to connect and communicate effectively across cultures. Now, this deep connection between language and cultural identity becomes even more complex when we examine the forces of urbanization and modernization in post-colonial societies. Now, in post-colonial societies, here traditional linguistic and cultural practices are often reshaped, or I would say challenged by rapid social and economic changes. Urbanization, I would say, has been instrumental in driving economic growth and societal change in this post-colonial societies. Why I say so? See, the migration of population from rural to urban areas has led to the expansion of cities, which becomes centers of economic activity and cultural exchange. This shift often results in increased employment opportunities, improved infrastructure and enhanced access to education, and across the boundaries they could relate to each other professionally, right? However, as noted in the works like Urban Planning and Post-Colonial State in Africa, rapid urbanization can also led to challenges such as the development of informal settlements, environmental degradation, and the disruption of traditional social structures. Now, modernization introduces new technologies, of course, governance models and cultural practices that can reshape existing social structures. While it often leads to economic development and improved living standards, modernization always challenges traditional cultural norms and societal practices and societal hierarchies. As explored in one of the books, you can refer Modernity, Colonialism and Post-Colonial Critique. This creates a very complex interplay between preserving cultural heritage and adapting new, often Western influences. In some cases, as is seen in in a work like globalization and globalization and urbanization, their effect on social life of post-colonial African societies, modernization may lead to cultural hybridization where traditional and modern elements coexist, or its cultural dissonance where there is a loss of cultural identity is perceived. These processes illustrates how urbanization and modernization are double-edged swords, driving process and posing challenges to cultural and societal integrity in post-colonial societies. So, as I said, the impact of urbanization and modernization on communication is a double-edged sword. While urbanization fosters innovation, efficiency and cultural exchange, it also brings challenges like cultural conflict, reduced personal interaction, and the risk of losing linguistic diversity. Right? Now, first I would focus on cultural convergence and conflict. Modern urban cosmopolitanism versus traditional norms. Urbanization often leads to the coexistence of diverse cultural groups in cities, fostering cosmopolitanism. This creates opportunities for cultural exchange and the blending of traditions, leading to cultural convergence. However, such interactions can also generate conflict, especially when traditional norm clashes with modern urban lifestyles. Say for example, in many urban areas, young generation adopt more liberal values influenced by globalization, which can create tension with older generations holding on to traditional beliefs. Communication in such contexts requires negotiation between respecting traditions and embracing change, which is a hallmark of modern urban life. Now, I would go to another point which is of much importance, that is transition to written communication, urban literacy and digital modernization. See, first of all, urbanization has driven increased literacy rates and access to education, transitioning many societal from oral traditions to written communication. This shift is further accelerated by digital modernization, which brings texting, email and social media to the forefront of communication. Now, first, what is the impact of it? The ability to communicate via written platforms has enhanced efficiency but also introduced challenges. Now, see, such a decline of this face-to-face interactions and the rise of informal communication styles, especially among urban youth, can be posed as a challenge. People hardly talk to each other, rather they rely on WhatsApp and Messenger, which is more easier one. Now, say for example, another thing, the Twitter. It has transformed the entire system of connection. It is the most easiest way for the youth to interact in the most convenient manner, but they hardly go for group discussions. Another thing that we have to consider is the multilingual spaces, the emergence of hybrid languages. Now, this is the most important one, I would say. So, cities often bring people together, people speaking multiple languages, let's say about our own India, resulting in multilingual spaces where hybrid languages emerge. If you see a state like Odisha, you will find there are 12 to 13 dialects, and there are different ways of speaking Odia, but when Odia is a single language after all, right? These hybrid languages blend elements of different linguistic traditions, creating new forms of expression that reflect the dynamic nature of urban cities here. So, now another thing that you must have come across is the use of Hinglish, Hindi plus English. It's a very interesting word that we come across, Manaufai. We had never thought of, and that's the way we have chattified the language, right? These hybridization of languages facilitate what? It facilitates communication across cultural barriers, but may also overshadow traditional language system, posing a risk to linguistic heritage. Next, we would focus on how modernization has fundamentally transformed the way we communicate. It's not just about how we adopt new technologies or lifestyles, but about reimagining how messages are conveyed and understood across different contexts. Let's explore how modernization has reshaped communication norms in three key areas. First of all, professional communication. It has evolved significantly in modern workplaces. Today, concise, formal, and often English-dominated communication is the standard. This shift contrasts sharply with the informal, context-rich communication styles found in traditional settings. The focus on clarity and professionalism has made communication more standardized, and I would say it's more efficient, especially in diverse and global work environments. Now the second one, digital and globalized communication. See, the digital and globalized communication has created entirely new norms. The rise of social media platforms and messaging apps has introduced a universal language made up of emojis, GIFs, and memes that transcend cultural and linguistic barriers. While this fosters global interaction and accessibility, it also dilutes the depth and nuances of traditional linguistic expressions. Communication today is faster and more visual, but often less personal and detailed. Lastly, modernization has led to new norms of gender and power dynamics in communication. In many traditional settings, if you see, women's voice of the woman were often restricted or marginalized. However, modernization has empowered women to take a more active role in public and professional discourse. This shift has helped create more inclusive communication spaces, enabling diverse perspectives to be heard and valued. So voicing those who remain unheard is one of the key aspects that modernization has helped through. So, modernization, I would say, has redefined communication norms by introducing new technologies, reshaping workplace expectations, and fostering inclusivity in societal interactions. It continues to challenge and expand how we connect with one another, bridging gaps while occasionally creating new complexities. So, urbanization and modernization have reshaped communication practices. We have already seen that. But then there are some places that we have to focus on. Like particularly in post-colonial societies, these changes have not only transformed how we connect, but have also fostered, as I said, innovation, inclusion, and efficiency in communication. Let us delve deeper into the opportunities and challenges they bring in. Firstly, urbanization and modernization both have opened up exciting opportunities. One of the most significant opportunities or one of the most significant outcomes is the emergence of hybrid languages, which bridge diverse communication or cultural differences. For instance, in multilingual urban spaces, hybrid languages, as I was giving reference of English in India, allow for seamless communication across linguistic boundaries. Even if you go to southern India, English is a savior, right? So, additionally, nowadays digital tools that we have, such as social media and instant messaging platforms, have enabled or faster and broader and more accessible communication. These advancements allow to interact globally, breaking geographical and cultural barriers. However, these advancements come with challenges. One of the most notable issues is the loss of traditional practices, such as oral storytelling, which once served as a cornerstone for preserving history and culture in many societies. As digital communication becomes the norm, these rich traditions risk being overshadowed or forgotten. Another challenge is the tension between the global norms and local traditions. The widespread adoption of global communication styles and practices can sometimes conflict with local cultural values, leading to a sense of cultural dissonance or cultural loss. So, you can always say that modernization and urbanization have significantly transformed communication, offering both opportunities for growth and inclusivity and challenges that demand careful consideration. As we navigate this changing landscape, it is essential to strike a balance between what? Between embracing innovation and preserving the cultural and historical richness that defines us. Now, when we come to the language English, first we have to understand that yes, English has emerged as a global language. Earlier, it was considered as a gift from the British colonial rule, but primarily due to colonial legacies and the forces of globalization, now English has become a language to connect with the entire world. Its prominence in technology, education and business makes it a vital tool for global opportunities. Now let us talk about the opportunities. English serves as a language, serves as a gateway to the world, offering access to international education, better job opportunities and global pop culture. These are the three most definite gifts that English language has given to us. It enables individuals to engage with global networks and expand their horizons. But there are some challenges. What are the challenges? However, the dominance of English poses a threat to local languages and cultures, a phenomena often referred to as linguistic imperialism. This creates tension as the rise of English overshadows traditional linguistic heritage. In essence, while English opened doors to global opportunities, its rise necessitates a balance to preserve linguistic diversity. Now, building on the rise of global languages, English has uniquely shaped global communication, particularly in post-colonial societies. As a product of colonial history, English was introduced to diverse regions during the colonial rule, but serving it as a lingua franca across the different ethnic groups. After independence, these local cultures have adapted English, resulting in unique forms which are influenced by native cultures and native languages and native cultural contexts. For example, if you see English that we speak in India is regarded as Indian English, and literature students must be aware of one of the disciplines, Indian Writing in English, IWE, that we have introduced in our syllabus, in our framework. And then there is Singlish, Singaporean English. These different varieties demonstrate how English has evolved in post-colonial societies, reflecting their local idioms, expressions and cultural nuances. These varieties, I must say, serve as practical tools for global communication while preserving aspects of local identity. Now, how do these varieties arise? First is necessity of communication. English as a language served as a bridge among diverse linguistic groups, facilitating interaction in multicultural societies. It was used in education system as well. English was used, or even today it is used as what? As the medium of instruction in schools and universities. English has now become embedded into the education system of post-colonial societies. And then the cultural blending. English integrated local idioms, grammar and native language elements, resulting in hybrid forms that represent cultural blending. And that's the reason why Sri Shashi Tharoor's word loot has entered into the English dictionary. In connection with the earlier discussion on the dominance of global languages, post-colonial English highlights how globalization can be shaped by history and cultural adaptation. While it expands access and opportunities, it also raises questions about the preservation of native linguistic identities amidst its widespread use. So, as global languages like English dominate communication and post-colonial societies adopt these languages to local contexts, there arises a need to balance global influences with the preservation of local linguistics and cultural practices. To address this challenge, I would say several strategies can be implemented. The first one, preservation of indigenous languages. Efforts to preserve native languages are crucial in maintaining cultural diversities. Initiatives such as, local language education, digital documentation, can ensure that indigenous languages thrive alongside the global ones. For instance, if you see in India, the documentation and promotion of language like Kannada and Malayalam highlight the importance of preserving linguistic barriers in linguistic heritage in a globalized world. So next, we have to think about the cultural sensitivity in communication. Now, encouraging intercultural communication skills fosters mutual respect and understanding between global and local cultures. By promoting awareness of cultural nuances, individuals can engage in meaningful interactions without overshadowing native identities. And finally, the role of technology. Technology plays a vital role in bridging the gap between global and local practices. Platforms like Google Translate make regional languages more accessible, while social media campaigns raise awareness about endangered languages and their importance of their preservation. So, in continuation with the previous discussion on the impact of post-colonial English, these strategies highlight a proactive approach to maintaining a balance, as I was referring to. So what it does, while leveraging the benefits of global communication, it is essential to protect and celebrate the richness of local languages and traditions to sustain cultural diversity in an interconnected world. As societies modernize, communication practices must evolve to embrace global advancements and inclusivity. However, this transformation should not come at the cost of cultural and linguistic diversity. By preserving indigenous language, fostering cultural sensitivity, and leveraging technology responsibly, we can strike a balance that reflects both global connectivity and local heritage. Thank you so much for this session. We will next talk about another part of this session.